Hi, it's the Herd. I'm going to let you in on a secret, a big one. The key to having a great day starts with having a great night's sleep. And once I upgraded to a Casper mattress, life in the day got better because of the night. Sleeping on my old mattress was an issue. But thanks to Casper, I sleep through the night, 7-8 hours, and I'm not a great sleeper. It's an amazing experience. Invented with 2 high-tech foams, Casper gives you all the support you need. And it's not just me. Time magazine said, Casper mattresses, one of the best inventions of 2015. It ships for free in a box so small, you can't believe it holds a mattress. Make it simple to get from your front door to your bedroom. And try it for 100 nights risk-free. They'll come pick it up. If you don't love it, and I love mine, they'll refund you everything. No questions asked. Start having a great day by getting a better night's sleep. Like I did. Get a Casper. Try it at home. 100 nights with free shipping and returns. Go to Casper.com/relief and use the code RELIEF for $50 toward the purchase of your mattress. Casper.com/relief. Code RELIEF for $50 toward the purchase of your mattress. Casper.com. Terms and conditions apply.
This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles. What a show today on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me. All sorts of news to be made on this show today.
You were on the phone quite a bit this morning in our little makeup room session.
30 minutes of sourcing, what you usually do in the morning. Let me start our show with this, a developing story. Maverick Carter, one of LeBron James' associates and his closest friend, will join us in 90 minutes. Sports, we just saw it in politics, business is all about power and money. People don't like to relinquish power. People get uncomfortable when they lose power. And they really get uncomfortable when they've had power for years and years and years, and young people come in with a different mindset, and they don't think like the older people do, and they don't work like the older people do. And the old people are the establishment. That's what they call them in any business. They're the establishment. And the establishment is, we've got rules here, the way the business is run. And 12 years ago, LeBron came into the league with 2 of his friends, Maverick Carter, Rich Paul. They didn't use a big agency. Like a CAA. Great agency, it's mine. They didn't use it. They didn't call up Harvard attorneys. No, they said, we're LeBron's friend. We're going to build a brand. And 12 years later, there is nothing in America like it. Lifetime deal with Nike. They were the original investors in Beats, which sold for over $1 billion. Warner Brothers, pizza chains. There is nothing in America like it. And they have upset the establishment. Pat Riley, Phil Jackson. I mean, those guys have been the NBA for 25, 30 years. Since I was, like a teenager. Pat Riley and Phil Jackson have been hogging up all the titles. And they've also hogged up all the power. But the world changes. And Phil Jackson, a very, very smart man, was talking yesterday about LeBron James, Pat Riley, and how it ended in Miami. And I'm going to read you this verbatim. It had to hurt, said Phil Jackson, when they lost LeBron. That was definitely a slap in the face. But there were a lot of things that came out of that. When LeBron was playing with the Heat, they went to Cleveland, and he wanted to spend the night. They don't do overnights in Miami. Teams just don't do that. So now Spoelstra, the coach, had to text Pat Riley and say, hey, what do I do in this situation? And Pat, who has iron fist rules, answers them. Quote, you are on the plane. You are with the team. You can't hold up the whole team because you and your mom and your, posse want to spend an extra night in Cleveland. Posse. Oh, that's a dig. Oh, that's disrespectful. Oh, that's demeaning. And Pat Riley knew it. I'll stay out of the racial topic because even Maverick Carter said, I don't think Phil Jackson's racist. But go back to Dan Gilbert, owner of the Cavs' letter when LeBron left. Go back to some of the wording with Pat Riley when LeBron left. Go back to Phil Jackson using posse. That's powerful older men not liking the establishment not controlling a situation. Posse is a way to marginalize real business associates who 12 years in have built an impeccable brand. They have not been perfect. Nobody's brand is. You really think Peyton eats Oreos? You really buy into Michael Jordan and hot dogs? There's the occasional money grab. There's the commercial that's not as funny as you think. But 12 years in, LeBron's a good dude, considering his power in the world in the same class as Cristiano Ronaldo or a Messi or a Michael Jordan. Phil Jackson, and I have a rule on this show, smart guys, and Phil Jackson is smart, can't conveniently play dumb. Calling Maverick Carter and LeBron's associates 12 years of excellence in business, calling them a posse is a way to make them look small. It's a cheap shot. LeBron this morning was asked about it. Dave McMiniman at my former network asked LeBron about Phil Jackson. LeBron said, I had nothing but respect for him as a coach. Had respect? LeBron, yeah. Until now, LeBron, yeah. I know LeBron's guys. Not particularly well. I know Maverick pretty well. He was a fan of the show. Came by ESPN one day. We hung out for an afternoon. Smart dude. Gets it. He's a smart dude. You don't have to work at a big agency to be a smart dude. You don't have to go to a prep school. You don't have to go to Harvard. Smart dude's a smart dude. He's street smart. He's smart. And they have run LeBron's business really shrewdly, and the establishment doesn't like it. They've also, beyond the lifetime deal at Nike, beyond the Warner Brothers deal, beyond the Beats deal, movies, pizza chains, they have created an agency called Clutch, which represents Ben Simmons, Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith, and others. And Phil Jackson knew using posse was demeaning. Absolutely 100% knew it would shrink them, marginalize them, make them look small. The establishment not like it. The young guys, the smart young guys who are going to do it their way and not going to do it your way. And they don't like it. And Pat Riley didn't like it. And Dan Gilbert, though he's apologized to his credit, and he bought rings for the entire front office to his credit. I'm over the Dan Gilbert stuff now. You go read that letter. You listen to Pat Riley. You listen to Phil Jackson. I'll stay out of the racial lane. It is the demeaning lane, and they're too smart to deny it. And I got into a conversation this morning. It was really funny with Christine Leahy. She brought up during our prep session this morning. Christine brought up a really interesting point. She said, we as we do the show, we prep for the show, we kind of bring up topics and we kind of argue, go back and forth. And you started talking about, because the whole incident came down to, it was Thanksgiving. It was a one-night deal. They were on the road, and LeBron's like, guys, they were at home playing at Cleveland. LeBron's like, guys, let's just stay here for Thanksgiving. I want to be with my mom. And like Pat Riley was like, hard, fast rules, iron fist, no way. Let me ask you this. Would the New York Knicks be upset if they had LeBron and he stayed an extra night with his mom? How much would the New York Knicks and James Dolan pay? Would they be willing to let LeBron be a Knick, but on Thanksgiving he could stay with his mom? Don't think they'd do it. James Dolan's net worth would go up $500 to $750 million, just like Dan Gilbert's did the minute LeBron arrived. You do realize that we hold press conferences for 16 and 17-year-old high school football players in America. They're in Amarillo and Midland, Texas, and Odessa, and Clearwater, Florida, and Sarasota, Florida, and Oceanside, California. And they're 17, 18 years old. And they line up hats, and the local news goes live, and the USA Today is there, and blogs are there, and we hold a press conference. We set precedents all the time. They do it at law firms and hedge funds and hospitals trying to recruit the top surgeon. And LeBron James if indeed the story is true and it appears to be wanted to spend one night Thanksgiving extra at home, and anybody in the world would be upset with that. He was a member of the Miami Heat, so I guess it was a road game. He wanted to spend one extra night, really, and you're just beside yourself. Let me tell you how it works. Let me tell you how it works on Wall Street. You give private jets to private equity guys who deliver. If Boston General and John Hopkins are trying to hire the top brain surgeon in America, private jet travel, free vacation homes. Nick Saban, you know what they did to the boosters did down in Alabama? They paid off his house. And LeBron James wants to spend, as a member of the Heat, one night. Get up in the morning, fly out. You're not going to let him do it? You have a problem with it? Because there's 30 other NBA teams that would be willing to sign that waiver for LeBron to do it. You got to be kidding me.
It was the whole team, not just him staying by himself.
Oh, my. Were they missing a game? Were they missing a tip-off? You do realize that when LeBron James went to Miami, the net worth of that team went up $500 million. When LeBron went back to Cleveland, the net worth of the Cavs goes up $500 million. The Cavs are on TV. I watched 70 Cav games a year. If LeBron wasn't on the team, I wouldn't watch him if they played hoop in my backyard. And you're going to tell me LeBron's not worth a night? 12 years in, he's not a diva. 12 years in, this guy's not a diva. He's helped out play. Everybody in the league wants to play with him. Every owner in the league wants him. Every GM in the league wants him. One night at home, and you're crestfallen. You're beside yourself.
It's natural for you to agree with that because you're not a huge Thanksgiving, Christmas, holiday kind of guy. But think about all the rest. I'm just playing devil's advocate. All the other guys on the team, it's Thanksgiving for them too. And they're probably like, oh, I would like to spend Thanksgiving with my family, but we're saying just because of your family.
Okay, all the other guys on the team would be 30 and 52 if not for LeBron. Guess what? At every company I've worked at, there have been stars. They get extra stuff. If you don't want LeBron on your team, hey, Russell Westbrook. Hey, champ, how's that working without Kevin Durant? You just lost your fourth in a row to the Pistons blown out, and they didn't have their best player. LeBron is the new establishment. Deal with it. Maverick Carter, hour and a half. All fired up today.
Right in time for Thanksgiving season. Perfect timing.
I'm going to have a big festive.
You are?
Yes.
You didn't have that last year?
Well, I've traveled a lot. I have a lot of commerce. Sometimes I'm not in town. I have shows to do, but this year is, very nice. You're going
to have the turkey, the stuffing.
Ham and
with your family at home?
Pork rinds and Bud Light. I mean, all the festive things.
Bud Light, huh? Screams Thanksgiving.
877-757-HERD. I got NFL stuff. I got college football stuff. God, what a show today. Here's the bottom line. Any player complaining about LeBron James and Thanksgiving, let me ask you, you want cranberry sauce or you want wins? Like produce? How you like them apples? So the story, to me, the lead story today is Phil Jackson is the third NBA establishment guy. Dan Gilbert, owner of the Cavs, 1, Pat Riley, 2, and now Phil Jackson, that is not happy with how LeBron is running his business. And to that I say, how's Oklahoma City now that Kevin Durant left? In America, recruiting and changing the rules for stars is part of the American way. That's the way it operates in America. Hedge funds, hospitals, architectural firms, law firms, you even see it in academics. If you want the best professor and Harvard and Princeton are battling over them, you make exceptions. You create precedents for Madonna, Beyonce, Kanye, MJ, Messi. That's the reality of it. By the way, when Phil Jackson used the word posse, I'm going to stay out of the racial lane. Okay, let somebody else have that. I think it, though, is a slap at LeBron's guys. And Maverick Carter, who will appear in our show in 1 hour, went on Twitter last night and said, all the hard work, effort, and achievement, and Phil Jackson still calls us a posse. Every step you take, they remind you, you ghetto. Let me be clear, though, I'm not saying Phil's a racist. I'm calling out his disrespectful language. So I'll address that with Maverick Carter, that coming up in an hour. But this is one of these things where I just laugh at this stuff. When LeBron held his big decision, and it was clunky and it wasn't ideal, but he was a free agent. He'd been there 7 years, and they couldn't get him a good second player. So if you work at a company, if you're a lawyer, you're a teacher, and your principal can't get you the equipment, they can't upgrade your school after 7 years, and you have a contract, move on. After 7 years, Cleveland couldn't get him a number 2 player. How do I know that? Because LeBron left. They went back to the worst team in the league within 2 years. So I've always been for all these players. Everybody in the media, anti-Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's terrible. He's disloyal. You know what Kevin Durant is now? Winning. With a better team. Shooting a higher field goal percentage and taking fewer shots and scoring the same. What's happened to Russell Westbrook, who all the owners love and all the GMs love, and everybody loves Russell Westbrook in the NBA? Yeah, he's on a lousy team that's lost 4 straight. He had 35 points last night, 15 boards, 8 assists, and they got smoked by a crappy Detroit team who didn't even have their best player. Everybody wants to control these NBA guys. You can do that in the NFL. Maybe you can do that in hockey. But in the NBA, there's 4 or 5 players in this league that are absolutely more powerful than the commissioner. Now, LeBron's not a diva, and a commissioner would never allow that. I understand you got to protect the enterprise. But when GMs and coaches start getting chippy, you're not even in LeBron's galaxy. It's one thing for Adam Silver to punish him. He can do that. You want a commissioner to run the enterprise. It's another for an owner to say, listen, I don't feel doing this. But just know as an owner, GM, or coach in the NBA, if LeBron calls and you don't pick it up, then he'll beat you for the next 7 years. I just think this is a story about not being able to handle new and unique and powerful from young people. And people in the establishment, I'm getting older. I'm part of the establishment now. And I check myself all the time. I got to be comfortable with new voices, new people, new blogs, emerging businesses. It's a reality when you've had power, when you've had established, you've had brand, you've had success. I understand it's a natural inclination to push back, but that's all this is. Let's just acknowledge when they use the word posse, that is a way to shrink and marginalize LeBron's guys. And this recruiting stuff, Al Michaels used to work at my old company, right, ABC, and they didn't do private jets. And Al Michaels is like, come on, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm top of my business. If I got to go to Green Bay, I'm not flying Southwest Air. Okay? You're NBC. The game makes $250 million. Somebody give me a private jet for my road games in Kansas City and Green Bay, cities that are hard to get to. ABC said, no, we don't set a precedent. NBC said, we get Al Michaels? Yeah, we'll do it. That's the way business operates. You don't think the New York Knicks would let LeBron James stay the night with his family an extra night in Cleveland if they could have LeBron James? I mean, these owners crack me up. LeBron comes to your team, Kevin Durant comes to your team, your net worth goes up 45%, and you're not going to give them a night with their family? You're out of your gourd. Out of your gourd. I got a lot to get to. I got to get to the Giants-Bengals because I have a strong feeling on that, and college football deserves the mess it's in right now. They deserve the mess, and I'll get to that in 3 minutes. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Jerry Jones speaking again this morning about the Tony Romo, Dak Prescott debacle, and he was asked about if Tony Romo could be seen potentially in the rest of the season. Here's his answer.
You don't rule out, obviously, we don't rule that out. That'd be madness. If you rule that out, then why would you ever even have a real commitment to a backup quarterback? And, boy, just like any position, but even more importantly, to have Tony Romo able to step in at the right time when you would need him is absolutely unthinkable in a positive way.
I mean, listen, I got to tell you something. Dallas is in a great spot. New England and Dallas are in a great spot. If Brady or Dak get hurt, you know you can win games with your backup. I mean, this whole story in Dallas about, it's chaos. The idea that I could go into the playoffs, get a bye and home field advantage, knowing that I can run Dak Prescott on read options. If he gets hurt, I've got Tony Romo as a backup. This is the ultimate NFL luxury. When is the last time an NFL team led a division could go into the playoffs and have a Pro Bowler backing up?
Okay, so predict for me, if and when we see Tony Romo on the actual field during an actual game, when will that be?
If Dak is healthy, he won't play this year. Yeah, he'll be a backup all year. Yeah, I mean, if Dak runs the table, what if Dak loses one more game? I can see Tony Romo. It's over.
Okay.
And Tony Romo should ask to be cut, not traded. Because if Tony is cut, he can choose any team he wants to. Mm-hmm. And if Tony is cut, it saves the Cowboys about $10 million in cap space and Dallas. So it wouldn't hurt Dallas as much, and Tony could choose where he want to go. So Tony at the end of the year needs to say, don't trade me. Cut me. I can handle it publicly. Mm-hmm. It'll save you money. We'll leave on good terms, and I can pick the team and the coach I want to go to.
Crazy. It's going to make for a crazy
It'll be good. Tony's going to go to the Jets.
You're just making all kinds of predictions. I've got another one for you and two stories that I know you really like. But first, do you remember Rob Gronkowski in the second quarter when he had a really hard hit? He went into concussion protocol. Not protocol, but they started asking the questions of him on the sideline.
Sure.
It turns out it was actually a punctured lung. Awful sounding. Punctured lung. He's expected to only miss one game, so he won't be out for too long. He says it was one of the hardest times he's ever been hit in his entire career.
Do you know how hard? Gronk is 6'6", 268. Mm-hmm. Do you know how tough, strong you have to be to hit him and puncture his lung?
Earl Thomas, very, very strong, apparently. I don't even know how that happens to puncture a lung. It seems to me like you'd actually have to puncture skin to puncture a lung, but I guess that's possible. But the Patriots did lose this game, right? In the second half, so if you think about it from the perspective that Gronk was playing the second half with a punctured lung, he only was targeted 3 times, 1 reception, 26 yards. So that definitely could have altered the outcome of the game. Not that the Patriots looked great on either side of the ball, really. But do you think that could have had an effect? And maybe we are getting too excited about the Patriots' loss?
No, I mean, when I look at that Patriots-Seattle game, that is a great NFL game. In my opinion, the 2 best NFL teams. And somebody had to lose, and it came down to a play. In fact, I told you yesterday, it's almost an advantage for New England to lose, because if they met again, it would be the Super Bowl, and Belichick could say for 2 weeks, they beat you at Foxborough. If you and then Seattle's like, we beat them at Foxborough. Belichick uses everything to his advantage. Losing that game is not the end of the world. It's not going to hurt their bye. It's not going to hurt their division. It's not going to hurt home field in the AFC. It can be used, however, for motivation.
It scares me, though, if Bill Belichick still needs to use that game as motivation when they already have the Deflategate situation as motivation.
I think coaches use whatever they got to use. Bill Parcells spent a career manipulating players above the shoulders.
Well, Jamie Collins, right?
That's the game you play.
So we talked about this yesterday. The Warriors' potential trade with the Celtics that would include sending Klay Thompson to Boston for Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, and the 2017 Nets pick.
Makes total sense.
It's completely a rumor, although I wouldn't be surprised if either team maybe took a call on the situation, because why wouldn't you?
If the Boston Celtics had a chance to get Klay Thompson and give up C-plus players, of course you take the call.
I think it would depend highly on who the Warriors could get for that 2017 pick, who they could flip it for. But Steve Kerr was asked about it, and here's his reaction.
I think our guys know that that stuff is, almost always just BS, and so if that became a story, I would probably talk to Klay, but I didn't know it was a story until just now. So I'll go home and get on the internet, and I'll decide whether to call Klay or not then.
By the way, almost always BS.
Great
so
answer.
You're telling me there's a chance.
You have to say that because you don't want to let Klay Thompson on to think that he's going to be traded.
Who's the GM for the Warriors? Bob Meyer.
Right.
Who got him the job?
Connection.
Who got him that job?
Yeah, Danny Ainge.
Danny Ainge.
And also Brian Scalabrine spent a season, I think it was, working for the Warriors, so he does have a connection on both teams right now, so I wouldn't put it past him to at least have taken the call. Here's something interesting, though, too, because you said maybe Avery wasn't the player the Warriors needed offensively. Him and Klay are averaging 19 points, both of them, 19 points a season, the same amount. Avery averaging 8 rebounds this season. Klay Thompson, 3.
Yep, Avery Bradley's a very physical player.
He's a good player for the Warriors to have. I don't know that trade makes sense unless you know. But I also have heard, I think it was Jalen Rose who suggested this, but there's a report that maybe the Warriors would be getting Tyson Chandler in a trade.
He's 40.
But I think it actually makes a lot of sense because you wouldn't have to play him. You wouldn't, you don't have to trade a star for him by any means, but you wouldn't have to play him every night if you're the Warriors. You can kind of rest him here and there. He's an older guy, would work well with Steve Kerr. I like that idea.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd
Line
News.
I led the show for 10 minutes about this LeBron James thing where Phil Jackson calls LeBron James' associates a posse to marginalize them. Here's Jimmy Johnson on our show about a month ago. This idea that stars don't get preferential treatment is absolutely laughable. Here's Jimmy Johnson, former Cowboy coach.
There's a different standard for all the players. I said, every year I told the guys, I said, listen, I'm going to be very consistent. I'm going to treat every one of you differently. And how I treat you is, do you abide by the rules and regulations? Do you do what we ask you to do? And are you a good player? Maybe I might cut John Roper for sleeping in a meeting. Whereas if Troy Aikman fell asleep, and he wouldn't have done it, but if Troy Aikman fell asleep in a meeting, I would have disciplined him.
Okay, so you would have disciplined him.
Oh, without question, but I wouldn't have cut him.
You treat stars differently, and you make up. Wall Street's been doing it, and Main Street's been doing it forever. You make up rules for stars. If LeBron wants to stay the night in Cleveland, get over it. Go online and Google Kanye West, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Adele, Madonna. You don't think they get extra stuff? Well, but LeBron's part of a team. So was Michael Jordan. He dressed in a different locker room. He did his post-game press conference, Michael Jordan. I covered him once in another locker room. There's game plan specifically to stop LeBron James. He is the league right now. He's 50% of the league.
But a lot of people call Michael Jordan a bad teammate. It seems to me like Phil Jackson's just doing the same thing.
6 NBA championships. Would you take it? I mean, it's all about winning. It's pro sports, not high school. This is not Hoosiers. It's not Hoosiers. This is not college sport. This is professional sports, a pro athlete who is easily the most powerful guy in American sports. Get over it. You don't want him? Go be Oklahoma City without KD. I mean, who are the 3 teams in the NBA the last couple of years we've really watched? The Warriors with stars, LeBron with stars, and OKC with stars. Now, which one of those won't we watch anymore? Oklahoma City. They lost their star. I mean, I just think this is all about establishment, not liking the new rules. And you have to, it used to be we lived in an agrarian society, farming. And even if I was way smarter than you, we'd be pretty close, right? Net worth. You could have a huge IQ. I could be kind of not very smart. But in an agrarian society, you couldn't separate from me. I have a tractor, you have a tractor, I have a hoe, you have a hoe, you can have more land. Then, but the difference in wealth was very small, even if you were much smarter than me. Then we go into the manufacturing era. You own the plant, I work at the plant. Now there's separation. But we live in a time now where I can make $1 billion a day at Facebook if I run it. So the separation, it's a very uncomfortable thing. It used to be an agrarian society, farming. Even a much smarter person couldn't separate. Then manufacturing. Smarter people separate. Now they separate by billions a day. Because now an idea, it's such a specialized world. Now an idea, just an idea. LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm jogging by a house in my neighborhood not long ago, and I'm like, holy. The guy looks at me and mentions one of those tech companies. It's his 9th house. That one was worth about $45 million. It's a different world we live in, and it makes people uncomfortable. But in this specialized world we live in now, there are people that can create massive value for themselves and others. And our government creates paths all the time. If you don't give Nike tax cuts in Oregon, they will leave and your economy will be gutted. So you have to work with them, and hopefully Phil Knight, which he has been, will be reasonable. But that's the world we live in now. College football's driving me crazy, and they deserve what they're getting. Here's the story. We got a bunch of teams in college football. One is clearly better than everybody else, Alabama. After that, it's pretty close. Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, Louisville, Washington, they feel pretty close. I believe Ohio State is the second best team. And 2 weeks ago and 1 week ago, I had them in my top 4, though nobody else did, because I'm not paralyzed by their one loss on the road, very close, to Penn State, when they led by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Penn State's going to be 10-2. They're one of the top 5-10 teams in America. But a lot of people wonder, will the committee allow Ohio State into the Final Four if they don't win the Big Ten? And to that I ask, why not? In the NFL, in the NBA, in the NHL, in Major League Baseball, you can be a wild card team and win a World Series, a Super Bowl, a Stanley Cup. Why be paralyzed by all these qualifiers? Why even have a committee? Just check the boxes. In college basketball, Connecticut was a 7 seed and won it all. Meaning Connecticut, which wasn't ranked that year at the end, won a title and was not a top 24 team. And you wouldn't let Ohio State in a sport where not everybody plays everybody else in a conference because they lost to a potential 10-2 or 11-2 Penn State team on a last-second play on the road. You wouldn't allow, and they've blown out everybody else they've played. For the record, Urban Meyer took over play calling duties after that Penn State game. Now they're averaging 60 a Saturday. College football, you don't play everybody in your conference. So this is inevitable. The idea that you have to win a conference when you don't even play everybody in your conference. And because Penn State has a tiebreaker over Ohio State may not go to the championship. They'll be tied. And people say, you can't put them in. Why not? Why not? Again, Ohio State's destroyed unbeaten Nebraska by 59, beat Wisconsin on the road, beat Oklahoma on the road by 21. If they beat Michigan, they're 11-1. All those wins, you wouldn't let them in because they didn't win or end up in the Big Ten championship? Baloney. Every other sport allows you to be a wild. You could finish third in your division. In college basketball, you don't even have to be ranked. You don't have to beat a ranked team all year. You could be a champion. 11-1 Ohio State and 11-1 Washington. I don't even think it's close. I don't care if Washington wins the Pac-12. Ohio State's a better football team. Look at their schedule. Look at their wins. Look at their only loss. Washington was controlled at home by USC, pushed around. Ohio State pushed around Penn State for 3 hours and lost. Barely. It's the Herd. LeBron James' business partner, Maverick Carter, in 40 minutes joining the show. Now bring on 3-time Super Bowl champ. He played 2 years under Bill Parcells, 3 years under Pete Carroll, 5 years under Bill Belichick. Ty Law, 3-time Super Bowl champ, Patriots, Jets, Chiefs. And by the way, owns a company which I've for years taken my son to, the trampoline park, and the name of that company is?
Launch Trampoline Park.
In West Hartford, Connecticut. Took my son there half dozen times a year. In fact, it was his favorite place to go, hang out, have lunch with his buddies, and jump on It's a great place.
It's a great name for a trampoline place.
Yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate you coming, man.
All right, let's talk cultures. I said Sunday when I watched the Patriots and Belichick, I said what I loved about that is you could just forget the coaching and players. Totally different cultures. Seattle, aggressive. New England, efficient, smart. I mean, not that Seattle's not smart, and not that Seattle's not efficient, or not that New England's not aggressive. But talk about cultures in the NFL and the different ones you played under.
Well, I would say we make this big thing out of the Patriot way. And there's a way that we do things, but I think it gets a little bit exaggerated at times. Sure. But it all starts with the players. I don't think it was a Bill Belichick thing telling us how to act or how to speak. It was just something that we had, that we created amongst ourselves. Some of the veteran guys that we grew up together, Willie McGinnis, Teddy Bruschi, myself, Lawyer Malloy, Otis Smith, Roman Pfeiffer. We had a core group of veteran players that we created a culture, and everyone else just followed suit. Yeah,
and you were playing with a young Tom Brady. Go back, because everybody mythology about Tom Brady. First time you saw him at practice, did you think he could play?
I wouldn't say I thought he can play like he just shocked everyone. He was just another guy. He was just another guy out there playing a backup quarterback role. I mean, but the thing that you did notice about Tom Brady was his work ethic. That's something that I picked up on, but it did not necessarily translate into performance right away. But when you're talking about a quarterback, what you don't see in the weight room with the big guys, and with the skill guys, and putting the amount of time that he put into the weight room.
It stood out to you.
It stood out. And then he was always one of the last people walking out of the building. So I mean, he worked and he earned his right to be the player that he is today.
How are Pete Carroll's chomping on his gum and he's high-fiving players, and Belichick's got the hoodie on and he's brooding.
I like Pete. Before you go there, Pete was one of my favorite coaches.
Okay, why?
Because he brought a different type of energy. I mean, I think, to us, it was somewhat of a culture shock because we went from Coach Parcells, who had his way about doing things.
Pretty rigid.
Yeah, you're pretty rigid, but Pete Carroll, he was just, a happy guy. So people didn't understand, was that really his personality? Because that wasn't something we were used to seeing. But when it came to practice, it was always high intensity. It was very competitive. And deep down in the core, Pete Carroll is a defensive back.
Oh.
I mean, if you could put him out there to play, he would damn sure try to go out there and play. You know what I mean? But that's the type of energy he had.
I heard Pete Carroll used to, on team planes, when it was coming down for a landing on the road, he would get on a cart and surf down the aisle of the plane. I heard he did that.
I haven't experienced that one with us, but I mean, that I wouldn't put it past Pete because he was just that type of guy. He had a lot of fun, a lot of energy, and I took to him. I mean, I loved him. He let me go out there and be the player that I became. It started with Pete Carroll. And
he leaves and Belichick comes in. And was it tough initially?
No, it wasn't tough because, remember we had Coach Belichick. He was on Coach Parcells' staff. He was actually my DB coach.
So you knew him well.
Yeah, I knew him well, but, I will say he got a little bit brand new because talking to him every day, being in my meeting room, and it's just a different type of dialogue, a different type of intimacy that has with your defensive back coach than the head coach. So, of course, when he came back, we were all rooting for him, and we're trying to call. We ain't supposed to, but we was trying to get in touch with him because we was hearing some of the things that was going on. But hey, he came back and it's like, hey, Bill, what's up, man? And it's like, what's up?
So he was a different dude.
He was a different dude.
He was now the CEO.
He was now the head coach instead of being the DB coach. And we all had to realize that too. So we didn't take it too personally. You know what I mean?
But it was different.
It was different. You know what I mean? But he was still Coach Belichick. He was still the same guy that, Charlie Weiss and the offense would pull him out of our meetings to come see what the other defense is doing so they can attack it. So that's the type of intelligence that he has as a coach.
Ty Law joining us, 3 rings, played for Parcells, Pete Carroll, and Bill Belichick. When you look at the Dallas Cowboys, and I've been saying this offensive line makes everybody look good. Nothing against Dak, and nothing against Ezekiel Elliott. But, I mean, they all look like Hall of Famers now. But that defense, you can throw on the Dallas Cowboys. You can throw on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'd argue you can throw on the New England Patriots. You can't throw on Seattle. When you look at this NFL now, when you look at the Cowboys story, do you buy it?
Yes, I buy it because, they're playing great football right now. The proof is in the pudding. If you got a young quarterback playing at that level and a young stud running back who's running better than anyone has in a long time, you got the recipe of a good football team, a playoff football team. So I think they're the real deal. And like you say, when you have an offensive line that can protect that young quarterback and open up those holes for a young running back, the sky's the limit.
I like Mike Tomlin, but I don't think his team, I think they're too emotional. And I believe you own a business.
Right.
My belief is the best businesses are consistent.
Right.
If I go to lunch on Tuesday and Saturday and Thursday, it's the same business. If I go to Starbucks in Beijing or Boise, it's the same coffee. I look at Pittsburgh. I don't know what I get half to half. I don't know what I get quarter to quarter. I don't know what I get week to week. Is there a chance that Mike Tomlin is so close to the players and he's so emotional? He looks like a player, barrel-chested. Some people said that about Pete Carroll, that he was too close to the players in New England. Have you ever sensed that?
I don't think so because he's built up enough equity himself, Mike Tomlin. And a lot of players take to that. They want a player's type of coach. They don't, that they can relate to a little bit more. So I think it depends on the culture of the locker room. I think so much is put on the head coach, like everything stems from the head coach and the GM. But what makes the team go is the locker room. It's the veterans. It's the players. Because guess what? No matter how much Belichick is yelling at me, do this, do that from the sideline, I can sit there and I can give him the hand because you cannot come out here on the field because it's a penalty.
Well, Tom,
you know what I mean? So, and that's the thing that people need to realize is it's the players. So stop taking so much as far as the coach is concerned. It's those guys in the locker room that's going to create the team and the championships that everyone wants to see.
Yeah, Tom Coughlin created a leadership council among the veteran Giant players. You know, I was talking about LeBron James, and like in the NBA, the old Pat Riley and the Phil Jackson, they're smart guys. They're the establishment. And they don't like LeBron and his associates now. They make the call. You're obviously a successful businessman. I was using your business and didn't even know it. When you got to the end of your career, Ty Law joining us, did you really understand that it was just a business and you were just a piece and they would have cut you any time they could?
Right. I realized it early on in my career, and then, you know, it got to the point where I was that veteran. I was that guy that was on the bubble, and I was that expensive guy. So, you know, and then I got injured. So the business aspect has always been there, but sometimes you get caught up as a player, and you're that caliber of player where you have a little bit more leeway and a little bit more leverage.
Younger and healthy.
Than the next person. But when you get older, it's going to happen to all of us, believe it or not, even though the great Tom Brady, it seems like he's not slowing down. But if you play this game long enough, at some point, they're going to be talking about you losing a step. You're making too much money. You're going to get cut. You know, some people are going to, you know, have the goodwill to say, you know what, we're going to let him retire, you know, gracefully. But if sometimes that player wants to keep playing, owner has to make a decision.
Yeah.
He's going to have to cut him, or he's going to have to trade him. He's going to have to do something. So it's going to happen to any and everybody that steps on the field and play in this league for an extended period of time. If you wear out your welcome so much as far as staying too long.
All right, Ty Law just announced Jared Goff will start for the Rams against the Dolphins in L.A. this weekend.
It's about time.
It's about Ty Law, thanks, bud. It's the Herd. This is the Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Just starting today, 30 minutes, Maverick Carter, one of LeBron James' associates. His best friends in high school have become his business partners, and over the course of 12 years have formed an empirical brand. Some of the initial stakeholders in Beats, a lifetime contract with Nike, movies, a pizza business, Warner Brothers, and Phil Jackson came out, and he was talking about LeBron James leaving Pat Riley in the Heat. And he came out and he said, when LeBron was playing with the Heat, they went to Cleveland one night, and he wanted to spend the night with his mom. They don't do overnights. Teams just don't do that. So now Coach Spoelstra had to text Pat Riley and say, what do I do? And Pat, who is Iron Fist rules guy, answers, you're on the plane. You're with this team. You can't hold the whole team up because you and your mom and your posse want to spend an extra night in Cleveland. And I said before, I don't see it as a racial term as much. That's just my opinion. As much as I say it as a demeaning term. And I absolutely believe Pat Riley and Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs, and Phil Jackson are the establishment. And they don't like that Maverick Carter and Rich Paul and LeBron James didn't go to a big agency and didn't play by their rules and now dictate terms. And they leave Cleveland when they want, and they leave Miami when they want, and they recruit players, and the establishment doesn't like it one bit. Believe me, I just left a big company, Disney, and they didn't like precedent either, so I left. I've dealt with this, obviously, in a much more granular level than Maverick Carter, who joined us in 30 minutes, and LeBron. But I worked at a company. We don't do precedent. All right. That's why Al Michaels left. That's why I left. That's why a lot of people left. Corporations don't like to do this thing they call precedents. But in the case of LeBron James, you got to be out of your mind. He's running the league. Outside of Adam Silver, he's running the league. And Pat Riley and Phil Jackson, sorry, old guys, the game has changed. Players have power. Banana boats. They figured it out. They're going to control where they go. You no longer control them. For years and years, the GMs and the owners controlled all the movement. Players now have billions, not millions, and they have mobility. And they work with each other. Congratulate the players for figuring the game out. For years and years, the establishment had no problem using players, treating them like, chess pieces. Well, now players have said, like that. We're going to get together and win titles. Hooray for the players. It's not a bad thing for sports. You're all complaining when Kevin Durant went for the Warriors. You do realize NBA ratings this year are higher than they've been in years for October and November games. It's not bad for the league. It creates super teams and villains. It's wonderful for the NBA. I never used to talk about the NBA in October. I couldn't wait for the opening tip this year. It's great for sports. We have a lot. Let me touch on this real quick in the NFL. I just got to touch on this. And you know what? I'm going to get to this in 5 minutes. Let me first bring on a guy I've known for years, co-host on Speak for Yourself, started the founder of thebiglead.com. He's a guy I've been calling for years and years, saying we're going to do a show together. He is completely tied in. Jason McIntyre, get up here. Okay, so first of all, I want to know on your thebiglead.com.
Oh,
I called you for years and years.
Yes.
And I would call you and I would always ask, what's moving? What's the traffic? Because I can't tell. And I leaned on you for years and years, 5-6 years ago, Jason, tell me, and you'd say, this story nobody cares about. And I found you almost to be an associate without working together. So the LeBron Phil story breaks today. Is it playing on the site?
It's just popping now. And you look at the history of the word posse, right? A lot of these young guys coming out of college, they have posses, right? But now LeBron's guys, they're millionaires, okay? You can't call them a posse, right? The next step in this discussion is going to be Phil Jackson, and he's from a different generation. He doesn't know super teams, the triangle offense. You know LeBron and Carmelo are tight. How long do you give Phil Jackson, Colin, with the Knicks, given these comments?
No, well, I don't think he's long anyway.
Yeah, not at all, definitely.
I understand if a African American male sees the word as racial. I stayed out of that lane this morning because I've heard posse used a lot.
It's still used today, yeah.
But what struck me was it's one thing if 5 years ago I could have said, hey, Maverick and LeBron, they're posse. Yeah. But for Phil, my point today is for Phil to say it, it had meaning. That's my belief. Do you believe that?
Yeah, certainly. And the connotation is posse, unsavory guys, hanging out on the couch, ordering pizza, mucking up the place. That's what posse do.
Unsophisticated, hanger-oners.
We're talking about a guy. Maverick Carter's been written about in GQ. Okay, he's got $1 million company. Phil Jackson was way out of line here. We can agree on that.
These were stakeholders in Beats.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
come on.
Yeah, 12 years into it, they have built an empirical brand. Okay, here's the other story this morning. And from the very beginning, you and I may have agreed on this. I think you and I did. I'm for mobility. You moved, I've moved.
Yes.
So KD's a bad guy. KD's terrible.
Here we go.
By the way, have you seen what's happening to Russell?
Oh, I love it, Colin. This is my favorite story. I've got a post going up on the Big Lead shortly. Russell Westbrook, they were 6-1. Everybody says, oh, look at Westbrook. He's averaging a triple-double. All of a sudden, they're 6-5. Guess who's 23rd in the NBA in assists, Colin? Take a guess. Oklahoma City Thunder. They don't share the ball. They don't shoot well. I wrote on the Big Lead this summer. They're not a top 4 team. People freaked out. You don't know the NBA.
I know. I disagreed.
Colin, Are they a top 4 team? They just got shelled by the Magic.
They can't shoot.
The Pistons.
Okay, this goes back to my theory that we fought the American sports media. And I used to tell Bill Simmons this. I'd say, Bill, all you NBA guys fall in love with the same guy. He's 6'3". He shoots 43%. Yep. He's dynamic and explosive. He's ball-centric. They're not ingredients to win titles. They're deterrents to win titles.
Guess who's top 3 in the NBA in turnovers? John Wall, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook, of course. Come on. These guys are not going to take their teams anywhere. I don't care that James Harden's putting up numbers, and we got guys that in our show, Speak for Yourself, talking about James Harden MVP.
Oh, God.
Are you kidding? Kevin Durant by far. He's having a great year, having the best shooting year of his career. He's probably going to end up averaging 28, 30.
Do you see his shooting percentage?
Oh, my gosh. Come on.
What an indictment of Westbrook. That Durant now shooting fewer shots, averaging the same, and his percentage goes up 9 points.
Remember Victor Oladipo? I liked him coming out of Indiana. They make the trade. He was like 4 for 17 last night. The Pistons didn't have Drummond, and they got spanked by Detroit.
All right.
I mean, come on.
You have a theory on the 18 playoff. Now, for years and years, I've been against it. I'm not in love with it. But it's not one of these ironclad things. I think I've gotten more flexible with sports over time. And I do like, as a sportscaster, we have a show together now. I do like the idea of more big college football games in December.
More football is good.
So what is your theory?
Well, Colin, listen, look at this year. We're looking at, and we talked about this on the phone, Urban Meyer and Jim Harbaugh. College football is a coach's sport. We know you talk about that all the time. Jim Harbaugh and Urban Meyer missing the playoff in favor of Wisconsin, Penn State, Washington. I mean, that doesn't make sense. You got to have 8 teams. I mean, look at this. If Jim Harbaugh, think about it this way, he doesn't make the playoff.
And has one loss on the last play at Iowa.
And he doesn't make the playoff.
And
does he look around and say, wait a second, what am I doing? I'm in a college football situation where a committee picks the playoff. Why don't I just go to the NFL? Listen, I mean, I know you and I are on the same page with this.
No, I am. Pete Carroll, when Pete Carroll left USC, I knew people that knew Pete. And Pete was so frustrated with the Mark Sanchez team he had, which blew the doors off of 9 teams, had one bad half, still almost won at Corvallis, which was a very good team that year.
Oregon State, yeah.
And Trace Armstrong was friends with Urban Meyer and went to Florida. And Trace Armstrong lives in Los Angeles or was working in L.A. and went to USC practices. And then he went to Florida's practices, and Florida played that year national championship. Right. And Urban said, how good is USC? And Trace, as a Gator, told him, they're men. You've got boys.
That was a loaded team.
The USC team had, think about this, Clay Matthews couldn't start at linebacker. And it ticked off Pete. Pete said, I can't compete. A bunch of people on committees and sports writers are. So your theory's mine. Yep. If Michigan
gets left out of the playoff, right? 4 teams. You're either going to get an 8-team playoff or Jim Harbaugh is going to leave, right? I mean, doesn't it make sense that he could go Indianapolis, Chicago Bears, as we talked about on this show last week? There are options for Harbaugh. I don't see why you stick around and have to deal with this garbage of a committee saying, oh, we're taking Clemson over Louisville. You watched that game. How is Louisville getting shafted here? They got the best player in the country. They have the best loss at Clemson by 6.
And maybe
they were
at the
5-yard line.
And the second best coach.
Yeah,
arguably.
And they're going to be out of the playoff just because, we want conference champions. It's a dumb system. So you're officially in on 8 teams now.
No, I'm officially in on your Harbaugh theory. I'm not on 8 teams.
We got to get Joel Klatt out here. He is 100% on the 8 team. Right, Joel? I know you're listening.
TheBigLead.com, Jason McIntyre, also speak for yourself. Finally, I said about 2 months ago, I said, listen, this whole Tony Romo thing, I'm not making stuff up for the blogosphere, is that if Dak keeps playing, and with their offensive line and running game, and Jason Garrett and Cole Beasley, he's going to keep winning games. Yeah. Okay, I watched the Giants last night. That's the most average 6-3 team in league history. I watched them win on Monday night at home, and I'm like, they don't have no
unimpressive,
no identity. Dallas does, and I'm saying to myself, if I'm Tony Romo, I go out and say, cut me. I can choose the team. It'll save you $10 million salary cap. You have an article on the Big Lead where he would land. Give me the teams.
Well, there's 6 teams. I like the Jets. Your theory's pretty good. Here's the problem with the Jets. You get Romo, he gets hurt behind that bad offensive line, and then you're 7-9. You don't have a top pick. The Jets are looking at a top 5 pick this year. You could get Deshaun Watson maybe in the draft, but I like the Jets. Would he go to the Cleveland Browns? He could hang out with Jamie Collins and commiserate about how they went from the
Don't think it'll happen.
That's not going to happen. L.A. Rams, they just named Jared Goff the starter. Think about it. Is he ready? Do you think Jared Goff is really ready to be a starter in this league?
Not against Miami this Sunday. He's not.
So you got that. I think Arizona, you've seen Carson Palmer's play has fallen off a cliff.
Okay, this is what I think is real. Now, this is absolutely real. Bruce Arians a quarterback coach. They've upgraded their offensive line. Larry Fitzgerald's about done, but they've got some nice receivers. Yep. I actually think of all the teams, let's just center in on Arizona. They have a good GM. They have a capable coach. They're in a division where San Francisco and L.A. are unsettled. I think Arizona's where Tony Romo goes. Older veteran guy, older veteran coach.
Good weather. No quarterback in waiting in Arizona like Denver has Paxton Lynch. You don't know. But I think Arizona, Carson Palmer's having a bad year. Runner-up for MVP last year. Can't do anything right. They barely beat the Niners. Palmer threw 2 bad picks. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, Arizona.
All right. I got to go. Got to take a break. Nice job.
Have fun with Maverick Carter, man. Thanks for having me on.
You bet, buddy. Maverick Carter, LeBron associate around the corner. Maverick Carter, who is a co-partner in LRMR Management, LeBron James business manager, one of the 3 guys who grew up with LeBron at St. Vincent St. Mary's High School in Akron. They're also known as the 4 Horsemen, LRMR Management, and they've created an apparel company, Hollywood production company, scholarship programs, media platforms, and Phil Jackson, and I think he knew what he was doing, called them LeBron's posse. And I've stayed out of the racial overtones on this. I believe it is a demeaning term, and Phil knew what he was doing. And I've said this for years and years. Smart people can't conveniently get dumb. Bill Belichick, Spygate. What are you talking about? Bill Belichick's too smart to play conveniently dumb. And I think in this instance, I think it's a pushback on authority and Pat Riley and Phil Jackson. And earlier with Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs, in that letter when LeBron left, they're uncomfortable with a young guy and a young group of business people pushing back. And when they broke into the league 12 years ago, I think it was okay to question what they'd done because it had never been done. 4 high school guys and a superstar build an empire. But now, 12 years later, get over it. And so the story is basically in Miami, LeBron had some needs. Okay. So does Springsteen. Get over it. So does Jay-Z. Get over it. So did Michael Jordan. Get over it. And for the record, so did Peyton Manning. So did Brett Favre. I mean, they've all had opportunities. But in the NFL, there's nobody as valuable as LeBron James is to the NBA. Michael Jordan and LeBron James are like 30 to 40% of the NBA. When Michael Jordan left, the ratings dropped 50%. Think about this. Think about LeBron James' impact in the NBA. Let's say LeBron James never existed. Think about how different the NBA would be. Think about this for a second. So Cleveland would still be Cleveland with no titles, and Carmelo would have gone there. And Dwayne Wade would have moved up in the draft and never ended in Miami. He would have gone to Canada. Those LeBron-Celtics rivalry games would have never existed. KD and Westbrook would have a title. And KD, therefore, would have never left. There is no big decision which rocked the world and made LeBron for 4 years massively fascinating and polarizing. Golden State would now have 2 titles and would not need Kevin Durant. Derrick Rose probably reaches a finals and maybe wins it. Tim Duncan has his 6th title. Kobe's only got 5. Think about that. Think of how many people LeBron James, teams, owners, narratives have been different. KD and Westbrook are still today playing, and they've got a title. Derrick Rose may have a title. Cleveland doesn't have a title. They're not burning jerseys. They're not outraged. You may not even have the current business model in the NBA established by LeBron, which is, dudes, let's get on the phone and play as stars together. That may not exist. Derrick Rose and Carmelo aren't the kind of guys to start that. KD's not the kind of guy to start that. I mean, LeBron changed the league. Charles Barkley didn't like it. Michael Jordan didn't like it. Larry Bird didn't like it. LeBron changed the league. We're going to, as stars, work out together in the offseason, and it's time for us to own our own business. And I'll argue all day it wasn't bad for the NBA. Do we have the sound of LeBron? LeBron today, when asked about, did he think there was a racial tone with Phil Jackson's comments?
The title for young African Americans is the word posse, and I just don't believe that Phil Jackson would have used that same term if he was doing business with anybody in sports that was owning the team that wasn't African American and that had a group of guys around him that he didn't agree with what they did. I don't think he would have called him a posse. Fair enough. LeBron on his respect for Phil Jackson. I had nothing but respect for him as a coach for what he was able to do. Obviously, he was at the helm of one of my favorite player of all time, MJ, and also been there growing up and watching with the Lakers. But I got nothing for him. You said you had respect for him? Yeah. Up until... Yeah.
I mean, think about the 2003 draft if there was no LeBron James. Carmelo Anthony goes to the Cavs. Milicic still goes to Detroit. Chris Bosh goes to Denver. D. Wade goes to Toronto. And Chris Kaman goes to the Miami Heat. Not going to be nearly as much fun with Chris Kaman in Miami. A league would look totally different. When you really need to be there, you need an Interstate. The car, battery, auto techs prefer. Let one of those techs test your battery today. Find a location near you at interstatebatteries.com. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Last night, Odell Beckham Jr. became the fastest player to reach 3,500 receiving yards. The Giants are now 6-3. We know Odell Beckham Jr. is good. I really like him. I think a lot of kids think that he's their favorite player. But do you think the Giants are good, even with a 6-3 record?
No.
Why not?
Because I always look at teams as businesses, and they have no identity. The Cowboys are a profoundly great running team. The Eagles have great O-line, D-line play. Washington's the most underrated offense in the league, second in the league or third in yards per play. and the Giants have an average coach and a bunch of good receivers. They've been rebuilding their own line for 4 years.
This reminds me of a Nick Wright conversation that him and I had one of the days that you weren't here, where Eli Manning was criticizing Odell Beckham Jr. and saying, we'll kind of deal with his antics because he's good. And Nick said that he felt it was completely inappropriate for Eli to call out his teammate like that. And I agree. He's the fastest player to reach 3,500 receiving yards. And when Eli is questioning him, you're right. The team just doesn't have an identity and a good.
Yeah, I mean, Beckham's a great player. I'm not going to deny that. He's a profound player. But you're not winning titles if you can't run the football. And New York cannot run the football. And frankly, last night was an exception. They generate almost no pass rush. I mean, you got to have a pass rush at some level.
Jay Cutler was awful this weekend. And now there's a report from Mike Freeman of Bleacher Report. He said he talked to a few Bears players anonymously who say that they've given up on Jay Cutler and are embarrassed with his lack of game preparation going into the weekend. Do you think that Jay Cutler could have a future elsewhere?
Yes, because there's no quarterbacks, but I got to tell you something. The idea that if at this point you spend big money on him, that's a you problem. I said this about Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel advertised for years, Christine, who he was. And Cleveland's like, yeah, we like that. Jay Cutler has given you a 10-year advertisement on who he is. So he did it in Denver. He did it at Vandy. He did it at Chicago. And, I always talk about I like consistency. He's probably the most inconsistent, he and Cam, the most inconsistent, really talented quarterbacks in a long, long time. You never know what you're getting from him.
And finally, there's a report, I briefly mentioned this yesterday, but that DeMarcus Cousins, according to a lot of people with knowledge of the situation, think that DeMarcus Cousins will leave in free agency in 2018. Therefore, the Kings are trying to trade him as soon as possible, which would probably be within the next 3 months, because the closer you get to the February trade deadline, the less you are going to get for him.
So yesterday, I'm driving around Los Angeles, and I'm listening to a longtime local radio team, of which I know the guys, and they're talking about this. Should you bring DeMarcus Cousins to the Lakers? And I'm like, no. Lakers, you finally got a group of 10 guys, good kids, work hard. Yeah. And even your veteran guys like Luol Deng, everybody likes him, Lou Williams, good dudes. Don't screw it up. Again, Jay Cutler, DeMarcus Cousins. They've advertised for 10 years the kind of dudes they are. You can't fall in love with talent. That's just part of the resume.
I would like to hope that the Lakers are smart enough to. They have a good thing going on right now, by the way. The Lakers are really fun to watch, and they could win more than anyone thought
deep.
They would.
They don't have a star player yet. Maybe Brandon.
No, but they could be stars if they give them enough time to develop without shaking it up by adding a guy like DeMarcus Cousins into the mix. Let them breathe. Let them get to know Luke Walton. Let them have fun and win. How about DeMarcus Cousins, though, going to the Warriors?
No, God, no. Just don't screw it up. DeMarcus deserves the Denver Nuggets.
Don't screw it up, though, but you've been the one saying that there's some issues going on with the Warriors.
Said they need size. They don't need ego.
He gives them size.
He does. He feels like a New York Knick. That's what he feels like.
He does feel like a New York Knick. You're right. You're very right about that. They've been more disappointing than I thought this season.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico's been saving people money for 75 years. If you're serious about savings, go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money. Just an update. Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather could fight. And Mayweather wants to make $100 million on the fight. And in order for that to happen, Conor McGregor would have to take a pay cut. And Conor McGregor's got an ego, and Floyd Mayweather has an ego. And Conor obviously took over UFC this weekend. Before the end of this hour, I'm going to play you a bite. My takeaway on this is very simple. Is that Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor are going to be rich without fighting each other. This would simply be an exhibition to make each other rich. Therefore, I think it is still viable. But increasingly, I don't think Mayweather needs it. And unless he gets $100 million, he will not let it happen. Well, I've met Maverick Carter years ago. He just happened to be, he said, a fan of the show. So he stopped by my former employer and we hung out. And I really liked him. But I will say when Maverick and LeBron broke into this league and I heard about the Four Horsemen, I didn't know who they were. I had no idea. I was thinking, who are my high school buddies? We couldn't run an empire. So I think when they broke into the league, I was cynical too. But after 12 years, they have created production companies, apparel companies. They were initial stakeholders in Beats, made millions. Media platforms. They have built an empirical brand that is inarguably the best, at least domestically, without question. And yesterday, Phil Jackson's comments as a very smart guy calling them LeBron's posse. And it's Randy Mims and Rich Paul, and the one I know best is Maverick Carter, and he is joining us here in the herd. So when did you first of all, thanks, Mav, when you first heard it, were you angry?
Thanks for having me, Colin. I appreciate you having me on. When I actually read it, I was. Phil is obviously a very smart guy.
Yes.
Phil is a very highly respected guy, if not the greatest, one of the greatest guys to ever coach basketball and brought a whole different way of thinking about the game to it. So when I first read it, I was taken back, and then I became angry, and I became angry because we as people, we give words power. Like, a word is only as powerful as you or I or people make it.
Yeah.
So I happened to give that word power, and the power I gave that word was I took it as a little disrespectful. I wasn't upset that he told the story. I wasn't upset of him being like, you know, if LeBron needs special treatment, I don't want him on the New York Knicks. If he would have said that, I have no problem. He knows what he was saying when he said that. He knows why he said it, and I'm sure him and Pat are friends, so he got the story from Pat or whatever the story is, and he knows why he used that word.
I can understand if you were offended with the racial overtones. I saw it more as demeaning. He was trying to marginalize you and LeBron's management company, as it's all about LeBron, and you really are over your head. Did it racially bother you?
I mean, I'm no way calling Phil Jackson a racist. I've never met Phil Jackson, but there's no way I believe that he's a racist. But I think the word is disrespectful and demeaning, and I think that word is oftentimes used for young African Americans, whether it be in sports or entertainment. And I had a conversation. It's funny. I was talking to the owner of the Cavaliers, Dan Gilbert, who rolls around with 15 every game. He's 15, 10 of his. It's his wife and his kids, but it's also his best friends. They're his partners. And he says no one ever refers to us as a posse. So I'm not calling Phil racist, and I took it more as demeaning, to your point. That's how I took it. Yeah. I didn't take it as like a racial slur at all. I took it more as demeaning and disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, I as I said, Mav, when you broke into the league, I was cynical. I mean, I was thinking, like, why don't they go to, like, CAA? And I mean, I was totally – do you understand for guys when you came into the league to kind of question, who are these guys?
Absolutely. I was totally fine with that. I mean, that makes total sense. And there's one thing to question who are these guys or if they can do the job, because that happens, if somebody new became the CEO of GE, we go, well, wow, who is this person? Can they do this job? That's fine. It's fine to question it. But we've been around for, LeBron's played in the NBA for 14 years. We've been doing this for 12 years and did all type of things. And the word is just, for him to use that, it was still demeaning to me after all of this time. That was kind of my point. And if you go back 12 years, if you want to say, use that word, or I don't know if they could do this, there was a great quote from a guy, I always laugh, but it was motivating at the time, who said LeBron hiring Maverick Carter to do this is like when he needs knee surgery, him hiring his plumber. I just thought it was funny. It was like, that didn't upset me because I understood it. Right. But 12 years later, it's demeaning to me.
When LeBron went back to Cleveland, he first had to accept Dan Gilbert's apology. And if you've listened to my show, and I know you have, I was angry for years with Dan Gilbert after that letter. I did think there was racial coding, and I think Dan Gilbert, as a good guy, accepted it, apologized for it, and I accept that apology, right? But when LeBron decided, I'm going to go back to Dan Gilbert, that doesn't mean necessarily, Mav, you agreed with it. Were you okay when LeBron said, I'm going to accept the apology? Was that a struggle within the group?
When LeBron first decided to go back to Cleveland, for me, it definitely was a struggle to get over accepting that. Absolutely. But LeBron said something to me, And he made me realize something. He says, Mav, we have to choose progress over pride. And this is a step to help progress. I want to go back and help, where I'm from, the people where I'm from. I need to help them show that I can be a progressive person and move forward. So I know it's prideful to you. It's prideful to me also that he said those words. But we're going to make progress and push forward. And that's when he made up with Dan. I said, I get that. That makes total sense. Progress over pride. Made sense to me.
Maverick Carter, co-partner, LRMR Management, LeBron James business manager, is joining us in the herd. One of the three guys who grew up with LeBron at St. Vincent St. Mary's High School in Akron, Ohio. They were initially known as the Four Horsemen. Now they're just his business partners. Maverick, when you were in Los Angeles, and I said this morning, I didn't see it as a racial story, though I understood that. I saw it as a rich, entitled power brokers, and there's a new guy in town and a new business in town. When you went to Miami, I mean, clearly with Cleveland and Ohio right now, there is warmth. There is a deep feeling for the city, its economy, and its people. But did you always feel a little bit, and I don't want to put you in a position to speak for LeBron, but with Pat Riley, there's an aloofness. And did you ever really feel totally all in Miami?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when to your point, I'm not speaking for LeBron, but I spent a lot of time around the Heat and with Miami, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And they really, Pat and Mickey run a first-class organization. It's a fantastic place. And I felt a part of it, absolutely. I know besides Pat and Mickey, all the people who work in and around the team, the business people, the administration, the coaches, I definitely felt a part of it, absolutely. Now, you always understand that Pat's in charge. That is clear, and he makes that very clear, and everybody knows that. And I respected that, and I understand that because he's a very well-accomplished man, and he's respected, and he deserves that level of respect. So you always knew he was in charge, and it was his way. And I don't care who you were, LeBron James or anyone else, it ran Pat's way. But you respected him, and you understood that, and it worked. They won 2 championships. They went to 4, so it really worked. I think, to your point, Phil, Pat, they're probably really close friends. I don't know. I've never met Phil. But this is more about, to your point, of like new guy, new way of thinking, new model in town, and it's not sitting so well with them.
By the way, the Thanksgiving incident they talked about that LeBron wanted to stay an extra day doesn't bother me. If Ronaldo, Messi, Michael Jordan, I mean, the New York Knicks would die for you to ask LeBron to stay another night. So, can we just go to that? Was that a big deal? Do you remember that?
I don't remember it because I don't travel with the team. And to your point, I live in L.A. now, although LeBron plays in Cleveland. I've never traveled with the team. But the fact of the matter is when he says special treatment, you've had Jimmy Johnson on the show, and I've heard him tell the Troy Aikman story many times. Like, what is special treatment? Of course you treat people different. Things happen. I mean, and players, not just LeBron, asked to stay over all the time in the NBA. I've seen it all the time. Guy goes into a town where he's from, whatever. The coach says, we don't have practice till late tomorrow. Stay over, get your own flight back. Or, we're in L.A. We don't play in Denver for 2 more days, so we'll stay a night in L.A. and everybody can have a nice dinner and enjoy L.A. So I see it all the time. But and the fact of the matter is, Colin, I would have had no problem if Phil would have said, you know what, LeBron requires treatment, or LeBron, his business partners, or LeBron, his friends, or LeBron, his agent, require things that we don't like, so we would never take him on the New York Knicks. But he knew what he was saying.
Yeah. You could always ask LeBron if he wanted to come on my show. I'd be willing to listen if he...
Listen, I tell him I love your show. I listen to it every morning. I think it's brilliant. I think it would be smart of him to do that.
I think it would be brilliant of him to do that.
I think it'd be brilliant.
I think it would be the smartest thing I've ever heard in my whole life.
Well, I think you and him are 2 of the smartest guys that I listen to talk all the time. So hearing you guys have a conversation would just be like, it'd be intelligence overload for me.
Well, you're just going to have to learn to handle that and get him on. Hey, thanks for coming on the show, Maverick.
Thank you, Colin.
Maverick Carter. Hey, when shopping for car insurance... Oh, I already read that one. Sorry. I just got so immersed.
Too much intelligence overload.
I'm so smart. I can't... I'm so smart I can't even keep up with my commercials. Now I'll read one later. It's the herd. Chris Broussard, top of the hour, will react to Maverick Carter coming on our show and his thoughts on Phil Jackson. I cannot wait for the top of our hour. Charles Haley, Can I say this? A badass is coming on our show in 50 minutes. Can I use that language?
You just said it, so yes.
Holy moly. That guy is like all-timer. Like one of the
someone a bad
top
pass?
5 toughest guy league history.
Okay.
Easily. So that was pretty good with Maverick Carter. Very happy he stopped by the show. And I'm dead serious. I would, the Truth Couch for LeBron James, he's always welcome. So, it's funny that when we come in as a staff, we do homework. And I don't know if I'm bragging about it, but I'm proud of the homework we do. And, there's been this thing in college football, who's the best conference, and I've always said it's the SEC, although I do think because of smart coaching hires, the Big Ten is gaining on it. But I still think the SEC is the best conference. And I just looked at an NFL mock draft that came out from my former employer. 12 of the 32 players, SEC. So I think James Franklin's revival of Penn State, Urban Meyer, Jim Harbaugh, Mark D'Antoni are terrific coaches. And I think Wisconsin's been one of the stories of the year. And I think they're gaining on the SEC. But don't kid yourself. Everybody said the SEC is down this year. Alabama, A, is easily the best team in the country. But did you watch the Monday Night Football game last night? Did you see the 3 touchdown passes from Eli? Or the touchdown catch from Odell Beckham? Or the touchdown catch from A.J. Green? Or the touchdown run from Jeremy Hill? Or the touchdown reception from Jarrell Adams, or the interception by Drake Kirkpatrick, or the interception by Landon Collins, or the sack by Geno Atkins, and the sack by Robert Thomas? They're all from the SEC. Every touchdown pass, touchdown reception, run, sack, pick. Now, Andy Dalton did go to TCU. But look at that Monday Night Football game last night. Look at the playmakers. The touchdown catch guys, the touchdown run guys, the interception guys, the sack guys. All SEC. Ole Miss, LSU, Georgia, South Carolina, Bama, Georgia, Arkansas. The depth is remarkable. There's nothing close to it. Take Alabama out. The NFL is still littered with incredible talent from the SEC. But we were digging this up this morning. Got to congratulate my staff. That game last night was a showcase of SEC talent. Alabama's the best team in the country. I do think if you privately asked Nick Saban, who would you not want to play, he would say either Urban Meyer or Bobby Petrino. I think he would like to play Harbaugh since Harbaugh's quarterback is now out for the year. I think Bobby Petrino, who coached in the NFL, and Urban Meyer, who would make Nick nervous. But don't kid yourself. This sport, in fact, I would say to its detriment, this sport is overwhelmingly run by one conference. It's in the South, the SEC. So obviously, as predicted on this show, Saturday night in Madison Square Garden shattered gate records. Conor McGregor won his fight with Eddie Alvarez, and Conor McGregor took over the city afterwards and was hysterically funny and vulgar and all the things that showmen are, be it boxers, wrestlers, or UFC stars. And there has long been rumors about a fight between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. I have somebody on the Mayweather side, and they have negotiated. But Mayweather doesn't need the fight. He's got $250 million in the bank. And he may run through it the way he spends on cars and sports betting, but he doesn't need it now. And the reason this fight, I don't believe, is going to take place is because it's now about money and egos, and both guys have them, and both guys don't need the money. But yesterday, TMZ Sports caught up with Floyd Mayweather. I think this is in New York. And he was asked about Conor McGregor. Here is the unbeaten, largely unchallenged Floyd Mayweather talking about Conor McGregor.
See the Conor McGregor fight.
I never really know that he fought.
He's like the Floyd Mayweather of the MMA, the UFC.
I didn't know Conor McGregor was undefeated. But I didn't know that he had a reign in MMA for 20 years and undefeated. and was world champion in 5 different weight classes. That's something I didn't know. If you're saying he's the Floyd Mayweather of the MMA, I'm trying to find out. Have you ever made $300 million in one night? Have you ever made $100 million in one night? Have you ever made $70 million in one night? So, far as trying to say that he's the Floyd Mayweather of MMA, I mean, it's okay to just to say it, but it's not true. Never compare Conor McGregor to me. That's a total disrespect. I'm an elephant. Elephant don't beef with ants. You know, elephant is so large you don't even see ants.
There you go.
Ew.
Well, that was kind of gross. But the point is, Mayweather, to this point in time, would create more money. But they're both going to create a $200 million gate if they fought. It would be $200 to $250 million. And the question is, Mayweather's like, okay, I want 150 million of it. And Conor's like, no. Mayweather, because boxing drives more revenue for the one fight every 4 years they have. But boxing has a problem just like wrestling. Wrestling keeps bringing out The Undertaker because they run out of fighters. I mean, if you Google WWE superstar, you know who comes up? The Rock. And I would say pro wrestling's got that issue. Boxing has that issue. They keep hauling out Manny Pacquiao, who's like 8 years past his prime. The reality is UFC is shrinking the profile of both. But in this instance, for one fight, Mayweather's going to ask for and deserve more money.
But how ignorant of Floyd to say that he didn't even know that Conor McGregor fought. It's like, of course you did.
I think, didn't he say he didn't know he was undefeated?
He said, I didn't know he even fought this weekend. I know he had a fight this weekend. Oh. Like, come on.
Well, I'll give him a pass on that. Like, I don't know. Like, a lot of times, I don't know what's.
You think you believe that?
I don't necessarily.
How does he know that he's an ant then, and compare him to he's an elephant?
Well, he knows of him.
Yeah, right.
Jared Goff. The word is out. Jared Goff will start this weekend for the Los Angeles Rams at quarterback. Told the story this weekend. I took my son to the pool, over to like place I take my kid to the pool, and they had a TV, and I ordered a beer, and the Rams-Jets was on, and I turned to the guy that served me, and I said, they were just kicking off. I'm like, I know it's 10 in the morning. I had a beer. I said, this is going to be 9 to 6 in 2 hours. But an hour and a half later, he looks at me. I think it was 6 to 3, and he's like, "What are you like David Blaine? How did you know that?" He didn't know football, and I'm like, "Dude, that's the 2 worst offenses in the National Football League." The Rams are sitting Case Keenum. Here comes Jared Goff. Listen, the Rams are a field goal factory. Unless Goff comes out and throws 7 picks, you know what I think happened? I think Jeff Fisher looked at the tape of Miami and thought, we can't win with Case Keenum. We can't win with our current quarterback, so we got to try something. I mean, that's we got a playoff picture now. I think Jeff Fisher looked at the Dolphins on tape and said, we got to try something new. It's the Herd. This is the Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Quite a day on today's show. Phil Jackson insults LeBron James. LeBron James is not happy. Maverick Carter, who is business partner since high school with LeBron James, comes on our show and says, I won't go racial, but Posse was marginalizing us and degrading to us. And LeBron James has said this morning, has been quoted saying, I've lost all my respect for Phil Jackson. And my takeaway on this from the very beginning, and I've been saying this for years, is it's very difficult for people in power to relinquish it. And it's very difficult for people in power. You see this with college basketball coaches. The players now want to transfer. Bo Ryan doesn't know what to do. He goes on Mike and embarrasses himself when I was there. Doesn't know what to do. The Bobby Knight, the power brokers, they don't know what to do. Basketball, the culture of basketball is not about the coach anymore. It's about the player. And to get the player, going to have to kiss a little butt. And if he's really, really great, there are times you don't have ultimate power. LeBron James gave 7 good years to Cleveland. They couldn't get him a good teammate. He left. Pat Riley said, you're kind of needy. And he said, well, Chris Paul's decision is good as I thought. And D-Wade's getting older. And LeBron and D-Wade probably had more than one dinner. And LeBron probably told him, eventually, we may be somewhere else. Now they both are. I have never had any problem in the NBA where players absolutely are more important than coaches and general managers, I've never had a problem with a Michael Jordan, a Kobe, a Shaq, a LeBron James, a Larry Bird exercising their power. So when Phil Jackson comes out as a very smart man and says, yeah, LeBron and his posse, that was, without question, something Phil Jackson knew would land and diminish Maverick Carter, LeBron's 12-year business partner, best friend, and high school teammate. I asked Maverick an hour ago if Phil Jackson's comments were racial.
I'm no way calling Phil Jackson a racist. I've never met Phil Jackson, but there's no way I believe that he's a racist. But I think the word is disrespectful and demeaning, and I think that word is oftentimes used for young African Americans.
Let's bring on Chris Broussard, Fox Sports Radio show, at Chris_Broussard. First, you know Maverick Carter quite well.
Yes, I do know Maverick well. I was in Ohio working at the Akron Beacon-Journal. We know that's LeBron's hometown. When LeBron was a little boy. And I met some people, not Maverick at that time, but who ended up being in LeBron's inner circle. And so that's kind of how I began to know LeBron and Maverick and Rich Paul and all those guys.
I like Maverick. I've liked him since I met him.
Very smart. And, I don't know if you guys brought this up on the interview because I listened to him. Maverick Carter was the last teammate of LeBron James to lead the team in scoring when LeBron was on the team. So they played high school ball together, and Maverick was the team's leading scorer, not LeBron. LeBron was a freshman. I'm giving Maverick some pub, but he was a freshman when Maverick was a senior. They won state, and Maverick was the player of the year in the state.
Maverick could play.
Although people say LeBron was better, which of course he was. But Maverick was a very good player in his own right.
So your initial takeaway on Phil Jackson's comments. Let's keep it on Phil for a second.
Yeah, I thought that they were condescending and disrespectful.
Phil can be both.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what Phil is. He's condescending, and that's exactly what that comment was. And it was kind of like a subtle jab to put them in their place. Now, I don't think Phil's racist or anything like that. But the fact that Maverick and LeBron really, spoke about that today at the shoot around, and he was very upset, clearly. But it shows you how LeBron James views himself. He views himself and his business partners. They view themselves like executives, like CEOs. Maverick is the CEO of LRMR Marketing, a very successful marketing firm. And their thing is, if you saw Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors, and Travis Schlenk, the assistant GM, and Bob Myers, the GM, and Steve Kerr, if you saw them walking around, you wouldn't say, oh, there's Lacob and his posse.
That's right.
You would treat them with the respect or, call them with the respect you do business people. And they see themselves as that. They
are.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Rich Paul not only has LeBron James, he has Ben Simmons, the number one pick, John Wall, Tristan Thompson. I mean, he's a big time agent now. Maverick, as we said, is the CEO of a successful marketing company, not to mention Spring Hill Entertainment. They're creating television shows and so on and so forth. Randy Mims works for the Cavaliers in the executive offices. So they are businessmen, and that is what they were so upset about because posse, you think of a player and his boys and all they do is hang out at clubs and get high together and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's why they took it the way they did.
I've said today, I'll stay out of the racial lane. If you feel it's racial, you can, because I'm not black and I don't understand it, and I don't think I have the depth of the knowledge to talk about what posse means in the black community. But I always have felt this story, and I felt it with Dan Gilbert in his letter, was about losing and relinquishing power. Now, that I can speak to. That I've always felt there is a discomfort in the NBA with the new NBA, which is KD gets on the phone with Steph and Draymond gets on the phone with I don't think Pat Riley likes it. Can you take me to the Miami exit for LeBron? Was it bumpier than we know?
LeBron and his camp were they when he was in Cleveland his first go round, they had carte blanche. Maybe too much power.
Perhaps.
But they could do and that's one reason Dan Gilbert was so upset, because he had let LeBron and his friends and his family, have carte blanche throughout the organization. So when LeBron went to Miami, it was completely different.
Okay.
And some of that's good, but at the same time, what you've been saying all morning is true. Sometimes you got to realize, like, this is a once in a generation type player. You give him a little bit of extra treatment, a little bit of special treatment.
The factory doesn't spit out Messi and Ronaldo regularly. Okay,
That's right. And they got very little of that, if any. Okay, and that did bother LeBron and his guys. And so they took that. Look, the bottom line is LeBron wanted to go back to Northeast Ohio.
Sure.
He had unfinished business there. That's what the situation with Dan Gilbert. It still bothers LeBron and bothered him what Gilbert said. I can't say if it still does at this moment, but he was very bothered by what Gilbert said about him, obviously. But he looked at it like, you know what? That's something I have to deal with to get what I want, which is to go back to Cleveland.
Progress over pride.
Exactly. And so that was the main thing. But the fact that they didn't – one person talking about this, he described it in a way to me as it wasn't a person in LeBron's inner circle, but somebody that talks to them, that LeBron kind of just felt like, the help. That's the word they used. And
in Miami?
I'm not trying to put, words in LeBron, but that's how a person close to the crew gave it to me, close to his friends, told me. And so, he wanted more say. He's got more say, obviously, in Cleveland. And that's really how it went down.
All right, let's segue. A couple days ago, Christine, in her update, brought up the Warriors, Celtics, Brian Scalabrine thing. And Bob Myers did get that Warriors job with help from Danny Ainge, so there is some history there. And Warriors are kind of finessey.
And Scal worked with the Warriors for a year.
I mean,
Christine is like pushing this, isn't she?
I'm pushing it. I have no sourcing, but I'm saying right now it's happening.
Do you not love it?
I have talked to people who about this situation.
Okay, so you've talked to people.
Yes, I've talked to sources. No, there's no truth to it. There's no truth to it.
Bruce,
there is
don't bring you on the show to throw a towel on this.
I was told I could laugh, I could chuckle, I could crack up about this trade rumor because it's not happening. First of all, Christine, you like it?
Yeah.
Why?
It makes things interesting.
Klay Thompson.
It makes things interesting.
But if you're the Warriors, is it a good move for the Warriors?
No. I said it only depends on what they're able to flip that pick for.
No, you can't. But they don't need more young. They're about winning now. They're not worried about a pick.
That's what I'm saying. So trade the pick.
First of all, you're putting too much in the pick. It's not about the pick. It's about you can't trust the pick.
Because you're not going to just trade for Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder.
Well, then don't make the deal, but you're going to get the worst pick.
Is valuable.
No, it's not when it's the 30th pick in the NBA draft. It has zero. That's
not necessarily what it is.
Well, unless you could get it to a number one or two.
Bottom line is no truth to it anyway. They're happy with Klay Thompson. Yeah. Why would you break it up after 10 games?
My sources say it could happen the next day. All right, let's get to this. So Floyd Mayweather and McGregor, I say that it'd make $250 million, but Mayweather, there's no reason for Mayweather to do it other than I just bought 6 more Bentleys. I mean, to me, Connor's got a lot to gain.
And Floyd has nothing,
Floyd,
right?
My takeaway is, what's Floyd got to gain?
Because Floyd has absolutely nothing to gain other than money. And unless he's been extremely reckless, I know he can't, but has he blown $400 million?
Well, he likes Bentleys and betting on the Packers. So that I know he had. Those were his two vices, cars and betting.
He probably bet on McGregor's fight.
Yeah, he bet. This is the thing. First of all, McGregor, he looks like a good boxer in the octagon. against guys that don't box.
He'd get destroyed.
Yeah, he can't box. Now, would Floyd knock him out? No, because Floyd really doesn't knock anybody out anymore.
He's a technical fighter.
Exactly. He doesn't throw more than 2 punches at a time anymore. I don't think McGregor would touch him. That's the thing. Now, this is the thing about Floyd, and this is, I don't think he needs to do it because, like you said, he's got nothing to gain. But also, at some point, age is going to kick in. He's 39 years old. He'll be 40 in February. At some point, it's going to hit you. What if it hits you during training for this fight? What if it hits you during the fight? And all of a sudden, those punches you could slip by centimeters.
Only takes one.
Exactly. And McGregor can't hit.
Now, I would say this. Would they use boxing gloves?
Or it would be boxing,
well,
and they would use gloves.
That McGregor has no shot. The only way McGregor can win is UFC gloves.
Then there's no way Mayweather's going to do it like that.
But this is the thing. If I were Mayweather, before I would even consider fighting anybody, let alone McGregor, I would scientifically, test my reflexes. Not just the eye test and what you feel. How are my reflexes? Is my speed just as it was 3, 4, 5 years ago? Because if it's not, we saw it with Roy Jones. He used to be able to slip punches, hands down all the time.
Fell off a cliff.
Exactly.
Brett Favre fell off a cliff.
It happens to everybody.
Fast.
So make sure you're not on that cliff before you take a fight with anybody, much less McGregor, because the last thing you want to do is blow your legacy, especially against a guy that's not even a boxer. And I do think McGregor can hit. So if he caught Floyd,
sure,
who knows? But I would rather see McGregor fight a Canelo Alvarez or Manny Pacquiao before he fights Mayweather. Show that you can do something, because I don't think he could beat Ricky Hatton. Remember Ricky Hatton from Ireland?
Yeah, tough guy.
He was great, and Floyd knocked him out in 10. He's not better than Ricky Hatton in boxing.
I agree.
What's the win for Mayweather, by the way? If he beats McGregor, okay, you beat a UFC guy, and if you lose, you just lost.
You blew your whole legacy to a guy that doesn't even fight.
Way.
That's the thing. Other than money, there's nothing to gain for him.
Saturdays 5 to 8, Chris Broussard, new Fox Sports Radio show. Good seeing you, bud.
All right, my man.
Guys, if you're wondering whether your shirt's too long to wear untucked, it probably is. Untuckit.com has solved the problem. Shirts designed to be worn untucked. Visit Untuckit.com. Use the code SPORTS, 15% off. Got a new store in L.A. on Melrose Avenue. We do it every Tuesday during the NFL season. It's our herd hierarchy. Let's roll the tape.
Herd hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to college. Number 10.
Philadelphia Eagles have very good line play. How do I know that? Second in the NFL in time of possession. They beat you up and push up front, and they're near the NFL lead in sacks. They lead the average NFL in starting position, meaning their defense puts their offense in very good position. The problem for Philadelphia, why I have them ranked 10th, they're 0-4 in close games. That's the problem with a rookie quarterback. Eagles at 10.
Number 9.
I've not been hot on the Broncos this year. Out of respect for the coach and the defense, I'll put them at 9. Bronco fans have been screaming, Cowherd, you were wrong. Don't forget, they've got the toughest remaining schedule in the NFL, and I don't think they win more than half of those games, even though they're tied for the NFL lead in sacks and second in the NFL in takeaways.
Number 8.
A team I've been hot on and betting on for 4 straight weeks, the Tennessee Titans. They don't play any defense, but to just see them against Green Bay since Week 5, they lead the NFL in points per game, just shy of 34. DeMarco Murray, good offensive line, nice weapons, and Marcus Mariota has been exceptional, especially in the red zone. Titans at 8.
Number 7.
Raiders slightly better because they're better on the road. They're coming off a bye week playing Mexico City. They are great in close games, and they are great up front offensively. Allowed the second fewest sacks in the league. They are atrocious defensively. Yeah. Total defense is 30th. They're bad passing defense. They're bad yards per play. They're bad rushing defense. You can't win a Super Bowl, though you can get to the playoffs when you're a one side of the ball team.
Number 6.
Atlanta's the other side of the ball. And I give them a slight edge over the Raiders. Weaker division, probably get more wins, could have a bye into the playoffs. They lead the NFL in all the big play stats. Their running game, though, pay attention, bettors, is slowing down over the last month.
Number 5.
Kansas City, I have so much respect for Andy Reid. 5 straight wins. They never turn it over. The offense is converting, though, only about 34% of the third downs. What does that tell you? They got to play perfect to win. They're not dynamic. They do not go over the top. This is about coaching and smart football, and if the turnover differential's in their favor, they're a team capable of winning, I think, one playoff game.
Number 4.
4 best teams in the league. Let's start with Pittsburgh. They've played the hardest schedule. Now they will play the easiest schedule remaining. The bad news, they don't get to the quarterback. The good news, they lead the NFL next to Atlanta in plays over 20 yards. A lot of fun to watch. Can't stop a nosebleed. Got them at 4.
Number 3.
Dallas Cowboys have the best record and best point differential. Second in yards per play, lead the NFL in rushing. I still have concerns, though, about their pass defense and their pass rush. They don't make other offenses uncomfortable.
Number 2.
New England. They're rushing the ball almost 50% of the time. What does that tell you? They're built to win a playoff game, and they're built to win in cold weather. They're 4-0 on the road, and they've got an easier schedule down the stretch. Very easy. This is a bye team, a division winner, hosting a game. You'll have to go to Foxborough and Brady and Belichick. I don't love their defense, but I don't love a lot of defenses in the NFL.
Number 1.
Seattle. I love the way Russell Wilson played. He's finally healthy. Now he's got a perimeter star in Doug Baldwin. They've got a pass rush. They're deep at running back. They get to the quarterback. The most complete team in the NFL. Still don't love their offensive line, but it's a small criticism. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Hey, speaking of the Seahawks, Russell Wilson, who you've been a big fan of this week, has announced that he's partnered with the Sonics Arena Group to help bring the NBA and the NHL to Seattle.
Yep.
You are from the Seattle area.
Sonics fan as a kid.
Sonics fan.
Yep.
Do you think that Seattle needs or should have a basketball team and a hockey team?
Well, they've got a baseball team, and they've got an NFL team, and they've got a major university downtown. I think Seattle is probably one shy in the pro sports department, and I think the NBA, because of its history, would be more successful than the NHL there. Mm-hmm. I grew up in the Northwest. There's a really hardcore niche following of hockey fans, but they supported the Sonics. They had a really bad arena, and that always hurt them. It was downtown Seattle. Key Arena was impossible to get in and out of. So, yeah, I think they deserve an NBA team.
I like hockey, and I like the NHL, and I don't think what we need is more hockey teams, especially after the Vegas one. Yeah. Do you think that the basketball team should be the Sonics?
I have no problem with it. Yeah, I like that.
I do, too. I think there are a lot of Sonics fans that would maybe return. LSU has reportedly contacted Jimbo Fisher, Larry Fedora, and Ed Orgeron for their head coaching vacancy. Do any of those names stand out to you as the right choice?
Probably Jimbo Fisher, although a lot of people like Larry Fedora. Let me throw this out. Ed Orgeron, and he brings Steve Sarkisian in as his offensive coordinator.
That'd be funny.
I've heard a rumor that's why Nick Saban hired Steve Sarkisian. Huh. If Ed Orgeron did recruiting and defense and hired Sark, I would be okay with that.
Okay. And finally, Randy Gregory has been suspended multiple times for testing positive for marijuana, and he is suspended for the rest of the season. But Jerry Jones says he is not ready to give up on him.
He's a young guy, and certainly he's got those challenges. And so he's our baby, maybe an ugly baby, but he's our baby. And so I really hope that he can continue to make progress, and I do not rule out Randy Gregory being on the field for the Cowboys.
Now, I'm all for allowing players to smoke weed instead of taking painkillers. However, right now it is a rule, and when you continuously break it, that shows me that there is a bigger issue than just the weed. You just can't follow rules.
Yeah, I'm pro players smoking. If it takes away chronic pain, I have no problem with a player smoking marijuana if they're in chronic pain.
Right, but once you continuously do it, knowing that you're going to be suspended for an entire season, that's another issue. But Jerry Jones is continuously taking flyers out on guys who have these kinds of issues, and we see it play out within the Cowboys organization. Do you think that it's too much?
No, I mean, I think they've shown they've drafted well. I think in this issue, Jerry was warned, I know he was, about Randy Gregory. I have a good source on this. He was told it's not going to work, and he didn't listen. So I think the Cowboys are best served staying away from potential issues. I think they've done that in the past, and it's come back to bite them. But I also understand why, I totally understand why coaches and GMs take risk, because a lot of those risk players are unbelievable players. Totally get it. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Well, he qualifies as one of the greatest players in NFL history, and certainly one of the most feared. His name was Charles Haley. He's a Hall of Famer. He was a 5-time Super Bowl champ, and he was a 5-time Pro Bowler. Bill Walsh, Seifert, Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer, Steve Mariucci. He's got a new book out called Fear No Evil, tackling quarterbacks and demons on my way to the Hall of Fame. Now, back in 2002, 3 years after his last season, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And we're going to bring on Charles Haley. Charles, I wonder, when I hear that, do you think, Charles, you would have been a different player had you been diagnosed during your career, Charles?
I don't think so, because, only thing about taking medicine, it gives me 90 seconds to be able to think through problems and solutions instead of always being in reactionary mode. I still just get as much angry. I still have the same passion, so I don't believe it. And I tried to learn everybody's position on the team, so I was out there be able to tell guys what they need to do on every different play. So I don't feel like it helped me. I don't feel like it hurt me either.
I've talked to coaches, and they say you were one of the most intimidating players in the league. Could I make the argument, Charles, that your intimidation actually helped you as a player? You were so feared and discussed in the league, and that maybe that it helped you.
Well, you know what? I think my body of work is what made people fear. Because I came at them every game. I played 96 of the plays, and I played hurt or whatever. I'm totally committed to my team and to my teammates, and whatever I had to do in order to win, I was willing to do that.
Did it ever bother you that despite being a dominant player, and you were absolutely dominant, that the media often focused on your off-field stuff and your temper? Did that bother you?
Well, it did, but the media's been writing bad stories about me since college and high school. So at some point I tuned it out, and I just, stopped caring about what the media thought. The big deal is that players I played with, the cowards, they would run to the media, tell them stuff because, they were too weak to step up, be a man, and attack me personally.
Of all the coaches you played for, Bill Walsh, Jimmy Johnson, Barry, George, Steve, was there one coach you were closest to, Charles?
Well, there was two of them. Bill Walsh, he was the greatest coach who ever coached a game in my book. He followed me my whole career. I went out to Stanford and when he was coaching and talked to him about what I was going through with the 49ers, and he took like 15 minutes off and sat there with me and talked to me and tried to help me find a solution. And, Barry Switzer, man, he's off the chain. He's one great player coach. He's been a friend. I mean, a true friend. And, my owners, God, I don't know. You know what? I can only say I'm blessed. I am blessed to have the great coaches that I've had and the ownership. They made my life easy. George Seifert, Jimmy Johnson, every one of those coaches made my life easy. Each one of them challenged me to be a better man and a better teammate. Now, did I listen to them all the time? No. But I know now where they were going. I couldn't understand that in the heat of battle, in the midst of going from manic to depression, and always thinking somebody's out to get me. And when you live with that kind of battle, it's hard.
Oh, heck yeah. Fear no evil. Tackling quarterbacks and demons on my way to the Hall of Fame. I cannot wait to read this. 5-time champ and a 5-time Pro Bowler. You were an intimidating player. Who was the toughest player you ever faced? Was there ever an intimidating player you faced?
Well, let me tell you, 2 guys taught me lessons. Jackie Slater, I caught him toward the end of his career, but I used my speed. I ran around him. And I did a quick move, got underneath, and then I thought about, I'm going to run over him. So I went, and as soon as I went, I saw his head go back. He go, boom! I hit the ground, and I saw Jesus Christ in all 3 forms. I said, oh, God. Hey, and I see him standing there going like this. Hey, that was an arm, and that was somebody telling me to get out the game, and I left. I threw my helmet away. Hey, I went way down there where the kickers were, and I'm going like, Lord, do I want to do this? Do I really want to play this game? Hey, he hit me the hardest. And then I played Anthony Munoz in the Super Bowl against the Bengals, and so I beat Anthony, and it was a hell of a match. And I beat him, and then Anthony started saying something in another language, right? I didn't know, I never knew any Hispanic guy, so he was saying that. It scared me. I ran out the game. I'm going like, man, something wrong with him. They said, well, he's speaking Spanish. I said, what the hell is our Spanish? I said, man, they scared me even worse.
Well, Jackie Slater and Anthony Munoz are 2 of the greatest offensive linemen in league history, so that is good company. Charles Haley, NFL Hall of Famer. Now, I would imagine you have been diagnosed bipolar, so you take medication every day, right?
Every day, the rest of my life. And you know what? I'm proud to say that. I'm proud to come out of the darkness and let people know that I'm not ashamed to have a mental illness. I'm not ashamed to take my medicine. I don't have to live alone anymore. And, I had this little kid inside of me screaming for help always. Ever since I was a kid, it was, he wanted somebody to understand him, to believe in him, and he couldn't find that. But now I found it. I have the right doctors, the right counselors, and, I'm able to be a friend. Emmitt Smith told me something a while back. He said, Charles, every time I saw him, I attacked him. He said, Charles, you want to allow anyone to be your friend. And that was one of those learning moments for me. And that's when I realized, guess what? I have to take the risk. I have to take the chance to believe in other people and not to be fearful, because, I suffer from PTSD, so I never had friends. And today I could say, man, I got some really great friends, and I'm not afraid anymore. And I don't think about killing myself anymore, because, and the only reason I'm still here is because of my relationship with Jesus Christ, and that if I committed suicide, that I wouldn't be able to go to heaven. So I understand the ups and downs that people go through, but they don't have to go through it alone. Now, if they choose to do it, then they have to deal with the consequences. But if they listen to what I got to say and some of the other guys in the league and the actors and everyone that's coming out saying, look, I have this, you could take medication for it. You can, you'll never be cured, but you can be able to deal with it.
Live day to day. First of all, we appreciate you talking about it. It takes courage to do that. I'm happy that you found help, and you're very thankful, and that's a wonderful thing. Charles, the book is called Fear No Evil, Tackling Quarterbacks and Demons on My Way to the Hall of Fame. It's like a new life for you. I'm happy for you, Charles, and congratulations. Good luck on the book.
Thank you so much, Colin.
Thank you. Charles Haley. He was an unbelievable football player, and I mean like a top 5 intimidator, dominator, bounced around the league, bipolar disorder, not diagnosed till he was out of the league. All right. If you have not caught up to LeBron James and Maverick Carter, have both commented on Phil Jackson calling LeBron's group a posse. I'll let you hear all of it coming up. It's a brand new season every week at DraftKings, destination for 1 week fantasy football. Use the code HERD. See site for details, DraftKings.com. Well, so Phil Jackson, former Laker legend, stirred things up yesterday saying the group around LeBron James, his 4 high school buddies, part of his management team, he called them a posse. He talked about the relationship with Pat Riley and LeBron. He said when LeBron was playing with the Heat, they went to Cleveland. LeBron wanted to spend the night. So now Spoelstra had to text Pat Riley and say, hey, what do I do in this situation? And Pat, who has iron fist rules, answers, you're on the plane. You're with this team. You can't hold up the whole team because you and your mom and your posse want to spend an extra night in Cleveland. LeBron today reacted to Phil's choice of words.
To use that label, and if you go and read the definition of what the word posse is, it's not what I've built over my career. It's not what I stand for. It's not what my family stands for. And I believe the only reason he used that word because he see young African Americans trying to make a difference.
When they first broke into the league, people didn't know who the guys were. And but for 12 years now, from the lifetime Nike deal, they did it differently. And they did it their way. And they didn't go to a big agency. They created their own agency. And I think it has made some power brokers in the NBA bristle. Here's LeBron on his respect for Phil Jackson.
I had nothing but respect for him as a coach, for what he was able to do. Obviously, he was at the helm of one of my favorite player of all time, MJ, and also been there growing up and watching with the Lakers. But I got nothing for him.
You said you had respect for him?
Yeah.
Up until...
Yeah.
Had. So I had Maverick Carter on an hour and a half ago. And I asked him about Phil Jackson's posse comments.
Phil is obviously a very smart guy. So when I first read it, I was taken back, and then I became angry. And I became angry because we as people, we give words power. So I happened to give that word power. And the power I gave that word was I took it as a little disrespectful. I wasn't upset that he told the story. If LeBron needs special treatment, I don't want him on the New York Knicks. If he would have said that, I have no problem. He knows what he was saying when he said that.
It was interesting. At one point, I had about a 12-minute, 13-minute interview with Maverick Carter, who went to high school, was a good basketball player himself. And then they bonded, Maverick and LeBron, won a state title together. Maverick was older, a senior, when LeBron was a freshman. And then LeBron's business takes off, and Maverick and his other friends, they called them the Four Horsemen, create this agency, and it's really a fantastic brand. But I asked him, I said, you were in Cleveland, then you went to Miami, and then you were going to go back to Cleveland. And I said, when you consider Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs, when you left, he was so critical of LeBron, and he called all you guys like needy and pampered. How hard was it, Maverick, moving forward on your return to Cleveland?
When LeBron first decided to go back to Cleveland, for me, it definitely was a struggle to get over accepting that. Absolutely. But LeBron said something to me. He says, Mav, we have to choose progress over pride. I want to go back and help the people where I'm from. I need to help them show that I can be a progressive person and move forward.
Shows you the intelligence of LeBron. Not getting caught up in the ego. This is what I've said for years about LeBron. I mean, Derrick Rose wouldn't pick up a phone to call LeBron when he was available in the open market, and LeBron was willing to go back to an owner who had just disparaged him. You got to be a grown-up in this league. You look at the Magic Johnsons, the Larry Birds, the Tom Bradys, the LeBron James, the Peyton Mannings. I mean, the real legends. It's never just talent. It's never just talent. It's work ethic. It's coachability, availability, health. And a lot of times it's just being smart, evolving. Don't be stubborn. Don't be rigid. Carmelo Anthony's got the talent. Carmelo Anthony doesn't have the humanity and the understanding, and I think just the overall, dexterity of LeBron James. Good show today. Had a lot of stuff going on. I mean, think about this. Think about how the NBA, just on players, just how the NBA would be different if LeBron never existed. Go back to that draft class that LeBron James was number one. Carmelo would have been number one and gone to Cleveland. They'd have no titles. Darko Milicic still goes to Detroit. Chris Bosh goes to Denver. But Dwayne Wade never goes to Miami. Dwayne Wade goes to Toronto, and Chris Kaman goes to Miami. KD and Russell Westbrook never break up because they go to the finals and don't face LeBron and win a title. The Warriors don't have KD. Just on the interesting scale, LeBron's made the league more interesting. He made it more interesting. You had the decision, you had the Miami, you had the Cleveland, you had those series with the Celtics. Derrick Rose probably gets to a finals without LeBron. Duncan gets another title, 6, not 5, surpasses Kobe. The entire NBA story is different without LeBron. He has been, and he's made mistakes. The decision probably wasn't ideal. I don't think it was as bad as people said. He gave money to the Boys and Girls Club.
Doesn't he also change remember, the cap is so high because of the TV deals. So how much impact did he have on the TV deals being so expensive?
Have you ever seen what golfers made before Tiger Woods arrived? Arnold Palmer didn't make $1 million golfing. He made it on golf course design and Pennzoil ads. He didn't make any money in golf before Tiger Woods. He didn't make any money on that's why all these golfers had to get into course design and equipment. When Tiger Woods arrived, good PGA guys could make $7 million a year. They weren't all flying private before Tiger Woods. The purses for golf, man. Sometimes I said it. I thought Tiger was bigger than golf, and he's proved it with the ratings. He's bigger than golf. Masters now struggles ratings wise. Masters doesn't get the numbers. The Masters doesn't. So they're very rare. Tiger, Michael, LeBron, but the NBA is not even the same without LeBron James. Wouldn't be nearly as popular today. It would be, again, I could argue you could take out 4 players in the NBA in the last 30 years. Take out 4 guys. LeBron, Michael, Magic, Bird. It's not the same league. Replace all of those guys with Caron Butler. Good player. But 4 guys. It's not the same league. Magic, Bird, that 10-year run revolutionized sports marketing. Revolutionized it. Then Michael, then LeBron. Just 4 guys. You take out 2 golfers all time, Jack and Tiger. Not the same. Be a lot of good players. Wouldn't be the same. Good stuff. College football playoff rankings tonight. Alabama and everybody else. I'd go Bama 1, Ohio State 2, Louisville 3. I'd still put Michigan 4. And Michigan 4 over Clemson. Barely. And probably Clemson 5. I don't even know 6. I don't even know. Joel Klatt, Ray Lewis tomorrow, among others. Nice job by everybody today. TheHerdNow.com is my website. TheHerdNow.com is my website. Go there, check it out. Telling you that whole Klay Thompson getting traded to the Celtics from the Warriors, I'm telling you. You just keep watching Twitter.
It's happening tomorrow.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I'm telling you, stay on Twitter all day today. It's going to happen. I swear to you. It's The Herd.